The book Dubliners is James Joyce's attempt at creating a moving portrait of Ireland in the early 20th century. Caught in the midst of political strife, civil wars, revolutions, cultural revivals, he's trying to cement an entire world and era that is about to disappear in 15 short stories. Well, there's one story that I would want to discuss with you today. It also happens to be his longest and most famous, called The Dead, because it concerns itself with a problem that I find unequivocally pertinent, exigent, and fundamental to the human condition, which is change. It is a change not only in time, but simultaneously that of space, psychology, culture, art, values, ethics. It is a change that is indisputably universal because it is so intrinsically individualistic. It is the transition between epochs, the metamorphosis of an era. It is the process in which the old die off, the adolescent mature, and a new generation is born. It is in this process which the environment around us, society, values, ideas change, that we as a species decide what part of ourselves we sacrifice and what we've gained. It's where we as humans spiritually remember what we've lost, and it is where we struggle to sustain those merits which make us human. And The Dead is about the story, a university professor called Gabriel and his wife Greta at a Christmas party hosted by his aunts. And every year at the party, Gabriel gives a speech thanking them for their hospitality. And that year, Gabriel speaks of hospitality as a unique and valuable Irish tradition. But at the same time, he laments how those qualities of humanity, hospitality, and kindly humor might be lost to a young, upcoming, hyper-educated generation, much like ours, enthusiastic for new ideas, for reform, for revolution. But the irony here is that Gabriel, as a university professor, is also part of that hyper-intelligent education that does not hold hospitality and kindly humor as important anymore. And there's also this very important scene after the party, which I would like to focus on, where Gabriel is trying to get in bed with his wife, Greta, who unfortunately is not thinking about him, but rather her first lover, who died when they were very young. And Gabriel, craving intimacy, wants to make her forget those unpleasant memories, but he soon finds out he can't, because his wife, Greta, is lost in the throes of guilt over the death of her first lover, who, when she left for Dublin, died of heartbreak and consumption. And so Gabriel, realizing that he's never going to be able to love his wife as genuinely and as truly as her first lover, he turns to the window and sees snow descending over Dublin, which figuratively is death descending over the past, representing the death of genuine love and sincere hospitality in this new generation of young Irish people. So this story, which essentially is a university professor attempting to seek intimacy with his wife, but ultimately realizing that he is somehow no longer incapable of love, is James Joyce here observing how in this process of an old era dying off, receding into the past, giving way to a new age of intelligent youths enthusiastic for change, how in this process we have somehow lost an integral part of ourselves. We've lost a penchant for hospitality and the capacity for genuine emotion, until it forces the question, is this then the modern condition? Are we like Gabriel, when stripped down to the very core? Are we nothing more than carnal and bestial desires hiding behind a facade of extraordinary intellect and accolades? And is it true that as we progress further and as society becomes more advanced, that we are greater removed from what it means to be human? And it's very striking how this fear of losing what it means to be fundamentally human is entwined in modern literature, which perhaps is the clairvoyance of the past at work, warning future generations. For example, if you look at Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, which is not usually associated with this idea, it delineates the progression of society in its plot. The town which the story is based upon, Macondo, begins as a tiny little mud hut village in the middle of a swamp. But as it comes into contact with the outer world, it discovers magnets, ice factories, telegraphs, and railroads, until when the banana company finally arrives, it's basically become a modern society. But it's also very evident and very clear that some part of humanity has been lost to these technological advancements. For example, truth has seemingly lost any value whatsoever when the government massacres 3,000 people in the middle of a public square and nobody cares to find out what happened because the propaganda given by the government is just so much easier and convenient to accept. And at the same time, the family which the story revolves around, the Buendias, have basically recidivized into living as animals. They let ants and lizards infest the rooms, they walk around the house naked, and engage in incest. So quite clearly, somewhere along the way, those merits which make us human, the need for truth, passion, and dignity, has been lost to them. And if we give these books any credit, then I think then the most pressing question of this day and age is, what does it mean to be human? And how do we sustain our humanity through change? Because if experience has told us anything, it's that humanity is fragile. It breaks apart, it peels away in crises. A war is enough to make someone forget how to love, how to feel pity, how to feel compassion. And seeing how technology and information is changing faster than ever, how artificial intelligence is able to speak and write exactly as a human, is there then any inherent value in being able to love, to laugh, and to cry if we have already prioritized utility, efficiency, and uniformity in our society? And I'm going to say today that it still does. Or else we would not still be reading Joyce, Faulkner, Woolf, and Dostoevsky 100 years later. If we did not feel the need to constantly remind ourselves of those old universal truths of being human, those eternal verities of love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice that mattered then and still matters now. And it seems as if they only become more profound if we consider that these human qualities are the only truths that endure no matter how long we continue to exist. The clothes we wear, how we grow food, even the earth we inhabit was completely different 1,000 years ago, and I imagine will still be completely different 1,000 years later. But we have always and will always love the same, cry the same, and laugh the same. And this is not just me saying this. We've known it since time immemorial. Dante shows it literally in Inferno. When Dante, he enters limbo, the first circle of hell, he describes the dead spirits as crowded and indistinct as trees in a forest. And the only sound they make are the exhales of sighs. But when he meets Homer, and when he meets Horace and Ovid and Lucan, these human-like figures, they have human voices in discrete forms. And when he asks Virgil, why these people, why do they have the privilege, even in hell, to live in a castle and to receive light? And Virgil tells him that eternal light shines on them from above because we continue to read their works in the living world. And one can only assume that it is because we find something profoundly and eternally human in their works. But at the same time, many people like Joyce believe that we've lost all connection with ourselves. William Butler Yeats says it in his poem, Sailing to Byzantium. Fish, flesh, or fowl command all summer long. Whatever's begun, born and dies. Calling that sensual music, all neglect, monuments of unaging intellect. And if that is the case, how are we, the people of today, to pass on our legacy of joy and pain and sorrow? And if so, what will it take for us to cement what it means to be human in this era? And if, as Joyce has shown us in The Dead, that intimacy is no longer love, and sincerity is a corpse entombed in the past, who then will be left to consider these questions anymore? Thank you.